Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeannie Rice on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet, and it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 20 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it absolutely free. You can also download a whole host of audio files there of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through the worksheet process. And if you choose to listen to them even repeatedly, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And if you choose to do that before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of the worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives. And secondarily, because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. And if you have any of those to share with us, we'd appreciate you doing so. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org. And or you can email Jeannie at jeanie@whyagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And if we get a question or a comment from you through an email, we will address it on the internet show, and then as time allows, send you a notification about what day and time that occurred, so you can listen back to the archives for your feedback or input. And we're greatly appreciative anytime anybody chooses to do that, because it makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention we have with this work is to be of service, and that is just infinitely easier to do when we know how these things are landing for you. Alternatively, if you choose to join us through Zoom, you can use one of the many phone numbers that are available through the Zoom online, and then enter our meeting ID, which is 853-2357-4173. That's 853-2357-4173. And when you enter, if the technology is working the way it should, you'll be muted and you can listen and or choose to share your screen or not. And then when you have a comment or question, if you're on the phone, it's *6 to unmute. And that's a toggle. It'll mute you and unmute you. And we greatly appreciate it, as I mentioned, when people share comments and questions and testimonials with us, because it dramatically increases the chances that the show will end up being in the highlight archives that many, many times we see that the best shows are the result of people just like you asking a question. And we're highly appreciative whenever anybody chooses to do that. So how can we be a support to you? What's on your mind? How's it landing for you as we're reading through the book A Walk in the Physical by Christian Sundberg? And it is, I've had a number of people that are having the comments and questions about this idea about belief. The most recent thing we were reading from the book Christian Sundberg is the idea that our beliefs literally form a prison for us. And the most recent section of the essays we've been reading is titled Freedom from Belief. How can your beliefs be a prison? Well, because if you have a belief, as Krishnamurti would say, it's an old, dead thought. It's from the past. If I can think about it, if it's a familiar thought, it means it's from the past. And a belief has to be repeated and rehearsed, and it has to be a thought pattern that I have poured enough of my mind energy into that I'm convincing myself that this thought is the truth, capital T truth. And the last essay we were reading is titled, You Are Free to Choose Your Beliefs. That idea of choice is critical to every deep spiritual tradition that I've ever resonated with. And as Christian talks about in this particular essay, he writes, you are completely free to choose what you believe. The only way this can seem to be untrue is if you believe it's not true. Your beliefs are yours to choose, and they're yours to question, and they're yours to discard. A belief is nothing more than a well-rehearsed pattern of thought. Christian goes on and writes, your beliefs act as a filter through which you experience reality. Our physical reality is a place where you're able to buy into some set of ideas, including the ideas about yourself and the world. And then you experience exactly what it is like to have that perspective or that belief. Does that mean there is no absolute truth, is the question he raises. And he answers that with a no. Absolute truth exists within beingness, capital B, beingness. And yet beingness transcends all form. Form includes thought. Form includes idea. Form includes books that are written, even the books that some would say are holy. It's in form. That means it's limited. It's not the absolute truth. It's not the capital T truth of all that is. It's a tiny little bit of energy that's been slowed down to be so much that it's become perceptible to your senses. It's not the big T truth of life. Everything in form is in a duality. It's this and not that. And these are distinctions that we make and that we judge as valuable. Christian writes, that which we call God is the living conscious source of what you might call the big picture truth, capital T truth. And yet God is not a thing. It's not just one thing among many, but rather God is in fact beyond all form. And God is this energy of substance of consciousness that gives rise to all form. Beingness, he writes, is not beholden to anyone's perceived ideas or objects. Those perceived ideas and those objects only exist because beingness gives rise to them. They arise within beingness. And so no subjects or ideas can fully speak to the capital T truth of all that is, the truth of life, the truth of what is happening in this moment. He writes, meanwhile, our consciousness is engaged in a form-based reality. As our consciousness is engaged in a form-based reality like the one we're in now, we can use form to understand and engage this physical universe. Our reality experience is taking place within a consistent rule set. We call it the physical rule set, the laws of physics, the laws of Newtonian physics. And it's happening within a rigorous context, seemingly so rigorous because we buy into the idea that what is physical, our form in the physical, is all there is, or is fundamental. And so we intently look to that context for answers. In other words, we understand and engage our experience through ideas, objects, symbols, sights and sounds, and all of the other many forms that we encounter in our physical life. That's good and that's natural, and yet it's not fundamentally true or our true nature. It's good because the divine can and does work through those forms to engage with us. And yet ultimately, what we call the big picture truth, capital T truth, is beyond any naming. It's beyond any words. It's beyond any thoughts. There's no way to even attempt to utter the depths and vastness of what we call the big picture of capital T truth using physical language. As we strive in vain to do so, we might, however, say that the capital T truth is absolute and total love, capital L love, limitlessness, and transcendent beingness. Now, again, these are just words to point towards that which goes beyond all words and all thoughts. And whatever we're pointing towards beyond all words and all thoughts, that's what you actually are. He writes, as transcendent beingness yourself, you're absolutely free to decide how you will frame this reality experience that you're having. You have that power. If you don't believe you have that power, it's because you bought into a belief of smallness, of limitedness. Perhaps you did so long, long ago in your present earthly childhood, and yet the power is still yours to change that thought, to change what you observe rather than you buy into a belief. You cannot be what you really are. I missed a word there. You cannot not be what you really are. Your true nature is always your true nature. You are part of the divine mind. You are part of consciousness. As the Way of Mastery says, you're infinite and eternal. You've never been born. You'll never taste death. You shine forth from the Creator as a sunbeam shines forth from the sun. You are the effect of creation's extension of itself. You are the effect of the love that is creation extending itself. And one really good way to think about your reason for being here is to bless all creation, to extend your true nature in every interaction with everyone and everything. The power to choose is yours. You always have the power, just like you have the power to believe you're a victim and you're small and you're limited. Your true being transcends every form of life, your body, the buildings you're in, the thoughts you have, anything you've ever written in a book or read in a book. Your being goes beyond all of that. And therefore, you always get to choose how you will interpret and respond to the life events that seemingly unfold around you. Again, this is all about freedom from belief. That's the title of this theme of essays, freedom from belief. If I need to be free from a belief, that means my beliefs are like a prison for me. They enslave me. They hold me down. They're a drag on my system. Again, please remember, we encourage comments, we encourage questions, even if I seem to be in the middle of reading something or in a monologue. Every time somebody asks a question, it enhances the value of this show, this time together. The next essay in this grouping is titled, Beingness Transcends Religion. There's a book on my shelf that says, Jesus was not a Christian. And I know people that would take that as blasphemy. But it's famously noted that there was somebody who went to interview Carl Gustav Jung, the psychiatrist who was a contemporary of Freud's and had gotten quite famous later in his life. And so someone was interviewing him, trying to follow him around during the day, learn more about what he does. And I forget whether it was just that this person was observing what was on Jung's desk or was actually there for one of the interviews that Jung was doing with a patient. But in response, the interviewer said, well, that's not very Jungian, what you're doing there. That's not Jungian. A Jungian wouldn't do that. And famously, Jung replied, well, thank God I'm young and not a Jungian. Thank God the people who live their lives through direct observation and get in touch with a deep truth and stay true to that work of observation and living in the moment, directly in the present moment. Thank goodness they don't get stuck in the belief systems that many people create around them and turn it into a cult following or a religion or some kind of a ritualistic practice. Christian writes in this essay, God has no religion except that we do. In other words, you as an extension of the creative energy that we call God, light, love, all that is, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to name it, you can create thoughts about belief patterns and religions. But all that is, life itself, the flow of life, is not stuck in thought patterns and rules. Christian writes, as we exist in a world of form, we come to understand reality within the context of that form. We impose meaning upon the form we have experienced. Again, here's that lesson from the Course in Miracles that says, I give this moment all the meaning it has for me. He writes, we formalize and we institutionalize our interpretations. And we're often happy to buy into the interpretations that are passed on to us, and then we pass them along to others. In spiritual matters, we tend to attribute the very real internal experience of the divine. So listen to what he's saying there. We have a very real internal felt experience of a connection to the divine. And we tend to attribute that to the forms around us. I walk into a cathedral with magnificent high ceiling and beautiful artwork and candles burning, and I have thoughts about how many hundreds of years this has been here and all the souls that have prayed, and I have this present moment intense experience, energetically shifted or uplifted or whatever you might call it. And I then think it's happening because of the cathedral I'm in. The essence of these great teachings is I brought that energy with me into that building. I'm only feeling what is my birthright. I'm only getting present in the moment to feel my true nature and the true nature of the people around me. It's not contained in a building. It's not contained in a statue. It's not contained in an incense that's burning. He says, in spiritual matters, we tend to attribute these very real internal experiences of the divine that we can have, but we attribute them to forms outside of ourselves. However, the forms, the ideas, the objects, the traditions, these things do not have a fundamental existence. You, as an extension of the creative energy, you do have that fundamental existence. The forms around you, the biblical texts, the statues, the saints' relics, they don't have fundamental existence. They are temporary. As the way of mastery would say, everything that arises in time ends in time. You, your essence, consciousness, did not arise in time. You are part of the one divine mind. But everything around you, the objects, the traditions, the forms, the buildings, they are but shadows that arise within the one consciousness. All forms are just shadows that arise within consciousness. They are fragments and not the whole. Capital W-H-O-L-E. No fragment can fully satisfy because our true nature is not fragmented at all. Your true nature is whole and complete, just as you are. Nothing of value can be added unto you. Nothing of value can be taken from you. Christian writes, beingness needs no name. Beingness transcends all names. Beingness can arise into the experience of limited perspective and can temporarily assign the power to these shadowy forms that occur within it. Yet, such forms are not truly reflective of the perfect unity and limitlessness of all that is, or what he puts here in all caps, what truly is, capital T, truly is. He writes, the true path is love with a capital L. Love transcends all restrictions, all requirements, and all definitions. Love cannot be contained within a given set of ideas or practices. It can operate through those ideas and practices, but it cannot be contained. Love can mean both structure or lack of structure. It can mean beliefs or lack of beliefs. The living power of love thrives both within and beyond everything of form and the entire universe. So, he makes us the invitation, may our human practices align with that living power. May our religion be the religion of compassion, kindness, humility, personal ownership, bravery, and selfless love. Whether it's inside or outside of any named structure or religion, or whether it's contained in someone's thoughts or belief system, can we simply align ourselves with the power behind the principle? Principles like compassion, kindness, humility, personal responsibility or ownership, bravery, selfless love. Guy Finley says, no one will ever master a principle. You're never going to master love. You're never going to master compassion. If you understand that what gives rise to you as consciousness and gives rise to all form is bigger than anything you can conceptualize. And if you make yourself subordinate to the power behind the principle and ask to be taught by life, by God, by light, whatever you want to call it, you ask to be taught in each moment instead of entering the moment with a predetermined notion that you know what's going on here. If you ask to be taught and make yourself subordinate to that which is greater, then that which is greater will temporarily lend you some of its power. The power behind the principle is the same power that's giving rise to you. So you don't master things by intellectually overcoming them or comprehending them. Especially these things we call principles like love and compassion. So your beingness transcends all religion. We have two more essays under the category of freedom from belief. And I would offer every time I read this, I want to say freedom from the shackles of belief, to understand that beliefs are like a weight. It's like dragging the past with you. As soon as I say that, I think about a story that Guy Finley told where he said, you know, there was this school for spiritual seekers, and it was situated in such a place that just on the outskirts of the school, there was this bog. And the bog led into a lake, and in the center of this lake, there was this island. And the point of the school was for the students to reach such an enlightened state that they could somehow figure out how to get on the island, because on the island was the secret that allowed one to transcend the need for that school. And occasionally a student would reach the level where he or she could make it to the island, and they would come back and they would just clearly be transformed. And they wouldn't even stick around the school very long. They would just be there for a little bit. There'd be some evidence. It'd be kind of a little motivation for people to keep doing their work, and then they'd move on. And there was this one young man there, and he had a roommate. And his roommate had a little something different about the energy in that roommate. And eventually one night, the roommate got up in the middle of the night and left. And came back in the morning and was completely transformed. He'd clearly made it across the bog and across the lake and made it to the island. And our student that was his roommate said, wait a minute, how did this happen? I'm with you. We've struggled. We've studied together. You and I thought we were good friends. How could you keep a secret like this from me?" And his friend said, "There's no secret." Well, if there's no secret, then, take me to the island. Show me how to get there. So he says, "Okay, well, let's go." And he walks out of the room and they walk across campus and he gets out to the bog and his friend just starts walking right across the top of the water of the bog. And his friend is uh, back at the shore and he says, "Wait a minute, what are you doing?" He says, "Come on." "What do you mean, come on?" He says, "Come on." So our friend starts walking and sure enough, he takes several steps and he's on top of the water and he says, "This is great." And he just keeps going and his friend keeps going ahead of him and his friend is going a little bit faster. And all of a sudden, our person realizes they're sinking and he calls to his friend and he says, "Hey, stop. Hey, wait a minute. You're going too fast. I can't keep up. I'm never going to make it." And his friend turns around and says to him, "Well, you know, just get rid of those things in your backpack. They're weighing you down." He goes, "What things in my backpack?" He says, "Your excuses." I don't have any excuses. This is real. I'm really sinking." And his friend says, "Yeah, it's all your excuses. You're buying into your belief that you can't do what I'm doing. And because you're believing it, you're pouring your mind energy into it, it's weighing you down. Your beliefs shackle you. Freedom from the shackles of belief would be a better title for this theme. I think it was attributed to Henry Ford. He said, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, either way, you're right. If we understand the power of our belief, Bruce Lipton wrote the book, The Biology of Belief. And in it, he talks about this word that they use a lot in our field of psychology and in medicine and psychiatry, and they call it the placebo effect. And they talk about it with disdain because, it's just a placebo effect. There's no big deal. Except it's the gold standard that all medications that get approved by the FDA have to do better than the placebo effect. They don't get compared to other medications for getting passed by the FDA. They get compared to randomized trials where some people think they're getting a treatment, but they're not. And if people just think they're getting a treatment, somewhere between 30 and 60% of the time, they get better. The ailments that we talk about is so physical and so serious. And so just believing I'm taking a medication that can help me helps people 30 to 60% of the time, depending upon the study. So in his book, The Biology of Belief, Bruce Lipton encourages us to change the name we give this. Instead of calling it the placebo effect with disdain and disgust, he encourages us to talk about the true power of our belief and give it a name like the belief effect and have some reverence for the power of it. Suggestible You is a book written about the science behind how powerful the belief effect is or the placebo effect is. If you pour your mind energy into a belief, if you believe you're right and you're somehow conceptualizing something with thought, that means you're conceptualizing something that's got only a tiny fraction of the truth, capital T truth in it, because thought is not fundamental. It's a form. Everything that arises in time ends in time. Thoughts come and go. Beliefs come and go. if you understand that when you pour your mind energy into a belief, you are limiting yourself, you are shackling yourself. You start to understand that, you might be motivated to want some freedom from the shackles of belief. Which brings us to our next essay by Christian Sundberg here in this grouping of essays titled Tearing Down, quote, the Wall of Belief, close quotes. And Christian writes, we commonly turn to beliefs for answers when the world, quote, does things, close quotes, to us that, quote, cause, close quotes, us to feel personal fears. Nothing causes us to feel personal fears. We create our own emotions. This is one of the big observations we encourage people to make over and over again in this work. If you can understand how you're creating your emotion, now you have the liberty to change it. If you believe your emotions are caused by people and things outside of you, how can you ever be free? How can you ever be at liberty to change if what you're experiencing is being caused by someone or something outside of you? The good news is it never has been. The good news is you can start to observe for yourself how the feelings you're experiencing are the result of the decisions you've made to place this value on that thought or that thought or that belief. So Christian writes, we commonly turn to beliefs for answers when the world does things to us that we think cause us to feel personal fears. Beliefs give the illusion of control, which makes us feel better, at least temporarily. Thousands of times over a lifetime, we turn to our beliefs for comfort. We justify, bury, or avoid certain pains or fears by buying into the stories of our beliefs. If and when we eventually want to truly question our beliefs, we often find that we cannot, because questioning them would mean tearing down the wall that we built to protect ourselves from what we didn't want to feel in the first place. This can be difficult. It can even be completely terrifying to finally face the fear that we originally needed the help of beliefs to avoid feeling. And yet, as Guy Finley likes to say, there's no such thing as bad self-knowledge. You've already lived through everything in your life. You've already survived it. You've already interpreted it. You've already labeled it and cataloged it and decided, oh, this I can deal with and I can remember. That is too painful. That's too scary. That's too overwhelming. I'm going to deny myself access to that set of thoughts and conclusions. Here, Christian gives two brief examples. If you're afraid of being, or you're afraid of feeling as though you are worthless, perhaps you have adopted a belief that your actions or your affiliations give you worth. If you're afraid of dying, perhaps you have embraced a belief in a prescribed afterlife. Typically, we have many examples of such beliefs that we have erected or built up over a lifetime. In fact, over time, our core beliefs end up becoming so deeply rooted that they do not appear to us to be beliefs anymore. Rather, they appear to be the fundamental characteristics of life itself, reality itself. That's just the way it is. How many times have you said, or you've heard somebody say, that's just how I am, that's just what it is? I've had people do this time and time again, and they'll say, well, I can't help it, I'm Italian. I can't help it, I'm Irish. I can't help it, I'm German. I can't help it, I'm this, I'm that. Christian writes, yet in fact, what we call the, quote, big picture, close quotes, this big picture reality exists firmly beyond any personal beliefs and any thoughts about it. It exists as stark and unforgiving as this current constraint set of physical reality may seem at times, truly it is subordinate to this greater reality of love, peace, and bliss. So it doesn't really matter how you might be experiencing temporarily in your current physical state, that life is hard and there's agonizing pain and there's terror, and it doesn't really matter. All of that's existing within this greater context of love, peace, and bliss. And that's always true, even if we don't see it from our current level of awareness. Thus, if we're willing to leave the comfort of our beliefs and walk through what he calls the opaque hellfire of our fears to experience exactly what is, then we have the opportunity to reach true relief and joy. It may take incredible personal courage and humility to do so, but such are some of the most exciting and rewarding challenges to the spirit. I talk to people about how if I downloaded this belief when I was 4 or 5 years old, that dark basements are terrifyingly dangerous, I can be in my 40s and still uncomfortable going into a room that's dark. Even if it's a room in my own house, even if it's a room in my own house that doesn't have outside access, so there's no reason for me to believe anybody could have been in there or that there's any poisonous, violent creatures in there, I can still have terror come up in me as an adult when I try to go into a room that's dark if I've downloaded a belief when I was 4 or 5 years old that walking into a darkened area or a basement is life-threateningly terrifying. The actuality of the world around me is not what's creating my emotions of terror in that moment. The actuality around me can be 100% safe and secure and comfortable, climate controlled room, etc. And I can still produce the terror that I felt when I was 4 or 5 years old when I go into a room as an adult, if the room is dark. So Christian writes, even though these opportunities to face our fears might seem incredibly intense, and it may take incredible courage and humility to face them, the opportunity to face those fears is an exciting and rewarding challenge for your spiritual self, for your true self, for your essence, for your consciousness. It's in accepting the challenge to face those fears that we get stronger. Stronger in our ability, stronger in our awareness of our choice to be able to choose for love. So Christian writes, so be brave and be hopeful. And when you feel you are ready, just know that you're free to tear down those walls of belief that you have built, wherever you find them, because you exist firmly beyond the concepts of your local identity. And ultimately, you have nothing to fear by challenging your beliefs. As a matter of fact, the only way to grow into the realization of your true nature is to dismantle your fears, to tear down those walls of belief. Tearing down the walls of belief. That is the second to the last essay in this grouping. The last essay in this grouping, seeing as though no one's raising a hand or making a comment, is titled Spirituality is Beyond One Direction. And Christian writes, the pursuit of transcendent and formlessness does not mean rejecting the world of form for the sake of the transcendent. Rather, form is a part of that which is transcendent. The formlessness and unity of being is in all things. It's not over here or over there. We were listening to Dale Allen Hoffman in the support group on Tuesday, and he talks about these ancient Aramaic words where they're talking about the beingness is threaded through, woven into, and threaded through. So when the ancient teachings say the kingdom of heaven is within, the word in the ancient Aramaic didn't just mean it's inside you, it means it's woven into and threaded through your being. Your being is a part of this thing we call the kingdom of heaven, or some of the ancient Aramaic translations would be better stated as the community of love is woven into and through the essence of your being. So it isn't that my form, my body is a problem. When we say that you are not just your body, we're not saying your body's a problem. We're saying you're your body, but you're also a lot more than that. And it's not like your body is that which keeps you from experiencing your true spiritual nature, your essence, your consciousness. Your consciousness is what gave rise to your physical body. There's nothing wrong with the physical. There's nothing wrong with the body. There's nothing wrong with anything you encounter at the physical level. It's that your essence is threaded through and woven through and transcendent of that. It includes that and is so much more. The formlessness and unity of our being is in all things, threaded through and woven into all things. Christian writes, this is important because as beings who are currently so highly focused on this physical experience and the duality that arises from it in our perception, that we often believe that pursuing spirituality is about pursuing some things to the exclusion of others. We often believe spirituality is about moving in one direction. What's an example of that? Well, a spiritual being doesn't eat garbage food or sugar, or a spiritual being isn't interested in sex or stimulation to orgasm, or a spiritual being isn't into any of these extreme sports and thrill rides. Those are just examples that people use to limit and exclude things that they've labeled or they've created a belief about them not being spiritual. And Christian is writing in this about how spirituality doesn't just follow one direction. It's not limited. It's pretty much the opposite of it. Spirituality is inclusive of all things. Like in the Way of Mastery, they talk about what is love. Love allows all things, embraces all things, trusts all things, and thereby transcends all things. Well, spirituality is the same way. Spirituality embraces all things, allows all things, trusts all things, and transcends all things physical. Not to the exclusion of things physical, to the inclusion of all things physical and much more. To the duality conditioned intellect, it might often be beneficial to select some form, some belief, some behavior pattern to move towards at the expense of some others, because we can't go everywhere at once with this limited little intellect. But ultimately, the move towards the unity of our being cannot be a move of division, dividing, separating. It's got to be about inclusion. And we cannot, he says here, we can't pit form against unity. We can't create a dynamic struggle and a battle in the name of spirit, because spirit allows all things, trusts all things, embraces all things, and thereby transcends all things. Christian writes, all forms that exist do so within the context of the much broader fundamental reality of love, wisdom, freedom, and joy. All form exists within this broader actuality. As we search for that joy, it is not the forms we seek. It's not some destination. It's not some this or that. It's that we're seeking the experience of what is fundamental and always with us. That's why the Way of Mastery talks about this secret, this essence, which is closer to you than your own breath and awaits your discovery, awaits your invitation to become actively present in your experience in the moment. As we search for that joy, it's not in the forms. It's not some destination we might reach. We seek the experience, the direct lived experience of what is always fundamentally present in our true nature. We seek that which seems to have vanished before us as we brought our awareness into this dense physical world of form and our many interpretations about it. What we seek is not one thing or another. What we seek is the fabric of our native beingness itself. We seek the living essence of our awareness that beholds all things, which is the same living essence in everything, everywhere. And that awareness is always close, closer to you than your own breath. It cannot go anywhere. It precedes you, it follows you, it is you, wherever you go. It is you and you are it. It is with you in all directions that you choose and all efforts that you make and all the experience and pain and pleasure that you experience. And your search for that is not a search for choosing the right forms. It's not a search for dividing and then choosing just one part of a whole. It's not a striving. It's a movement towards a total, complete, personal genuineness, meeting your whole self in each new present moment. Whatever directions you've chosen before, allow yourself to meet the now present moment fully and deeply. In this naked truth of the real present moment, the light of your being always shines. If you are in a body, you are the extension of the creative energy expressing in form. You are, as they say in some of these churches, you are the light of the world. You are consciousness. So that brings us to the end of the Freedom from the Shackles of Belief theme title in the essays. From the book A Walk in the Physical by Christian Sundberg. And we've got 3, 4, 5 minutes to have questions or comments or quiet reflection. Today's a Thursday, so I should mention that there will be a support group tonight. All the information you would need to join us is available on the mindshiftersacademy.org website. And Sally, have you unmuted for a reason?
I have unmuted for a reason. This has been extremely helpful today, and just kind of brought pieces of the puzzle together in a way that it almost brought me to tears, feeling so grateful. I have so many comments, but the one question that occurred to me, do you have to do anything or be anything special to be in the Dale Hoffman support group?
I don't know that he has a support group. I'm just
Oh,
talking
okay.
about how on Tuesday in our regular support group, when I was asking people,
Ah,
what would you like to do? They said, well, we haven't listened to anything by Dale Allen Hoffman in a
okay.
while. And so I pulled out his DVD titled The Word,
Okay. Thank you.
and it's called Sacred Illumination of the Original Aramaic Teachings of Yeshua. And what it is on this DVD is a collection of different snippets of video when Dale has been giving different talks over the years. He has a body of work that sometimes he'll put on sale on a thumb drive, and it's got all kinds of different talks and snippets of seminars he's done or whole seminars he's done, and his talk on the Beatitudes and the interpretation of those ancient Aramaic words directly into English, etc. So
Thank you.
what happened on Tuesday was that we just listened to 45 minutes of that DVD and then discussed it.
Thank you.
You're most welcome and
I really,
deserving.
and you are too. And I also was at the Tuesday support group with you, and I immediately made notes. I want to hear more and focus a little bit more on the review of the Aramaic that I had long ago known and grateful for. I was also grateful for the other comments about, Jesus was not uh, a
Christian.
Christian
Yeah.
in Bristol. Where did I write that? Other side of this page. Jesus never spoke English. Um, and God had no religion. These are kind of like really important things to remind self. I share the experience with you when I walk into a cathedral anywhere and know that others have prayed in that space. And then I walk into a woods and know the same thing. And so it's been beautiful in my 67 years to carry my spiritual my spiritual connection with me wherever I go, wherever I go. And so what a gift that is, what a joyful gift that is to be able to feel into that regardless of where I am. And yes, and there's more layers of belief that I am now identifying that I can talk more about. But thank you for so much for this time together.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. It's a blessing having you and everyone who's listening. I'll mute you so you can stick around for the last few comments. Support group tonight and another talk tomorrow on this hour from 11 to noon Central. And Michael and Jeannie should be on Zoom for their next hour starting any moment. I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love.